Old Aesop Glim asks you to resolve firmly. 1. That you will never write even one piece of copy without having first written its copy policy. 2. That you will never write a copy policy without having first made every attempt to secure as many pertinent facts as time and circumstances permit. The proper sequence is get the facts, write the copy policy, write the copy. Think of the copy as a construction project, a house, a bridge, anything you wish. Think of the copy policy as the blueprint for the job. Think of the facts as the materials out of which the project is to be built. Don't ever start your construction before you have assembled all the materials and completed the blueprint. What kind of facts do we need? First, we need facts about the product or service to be advertised. What have we to offer our prospects? Second, we need facts about our prospects. What kind of people are they? What is it they want from our product or service? How important do they consider the service rendered by our wares? What vocabulary do they use when they need or use wares of this type? What we are now discussing is variously known as fact-finding, copy research, etc. Whatever you choose to call it, remember it involves getting facts. Two kinds of facts: facts about the product and facts about the people who are prospective purchasers of the product. The product may be new or old. It may be in general use or in limited use. Your copy objective will almost always be to induce new people to try it. Many times you will also have the job of trying to induce old customers to use it more often. Sometimes you will have the job of inducing old customers to use the product in new ways, all of which can be boiled down to the fact that most of the time you are seeking new users, new uses, and/or more frequent use. With these three possibilities always in mind, we shall not maintain the distinction between present and prospective users, between old markets and new markets, in setting up the precepts which follow. For a question such as who buys it, you will have to add who should buy it when you are thinking about potential new customers. If your product or service is wholly new, all your yardsticks are should. If, on the other hand, your product is not new but there are still plenty of people who are not using it, you will have to ask both who does and who should. Assume that there are already 1 million satisfied users of your wares and another million people, much like the first million, who haven't yet tried your wares. Obviously, you are going to get some of your copy material by talking to satisfied users. The reasons that make them satisfied users are quite likely to be reasons that will help you to interest those who haven't yet bought. This same set of reasons will undoubtedly serve as useful material to keep present users using it. But be sure that talking to present users is not the whole of your fact-finding job. It is equally important to know why non-users are non-users. Is the reason simply one of ignorance or indifference? Or is there some positive reason why they have resisted buying up to the present? If there is a positive sales resistance, that is as important a fact as any you can secure. And the facts to combat that sales resistance are obviously part of the material you will need to assemble. We can probably outline our fact-finding job under 6 broad headings. It is convenient and easy to do so, but we must never lull ourselves to sleep by assuming that the answer to any question is automatically as simple as the question itself. Don't forget to add should, if you should, to the following questions. Who buys it? When does he buy it? Where does he buy it? How does he buy it? Why does he buy it? What is the competition? Who buys it? You will recall our discussion of the fact that copy must play the law of averages. We can't write a personalized letter to each of our prospects. What we need is to secure a clear picture of an average or composite prospect to whom we shall address our message. Is our average prospect male or female, young or old, deaf, left-handed, albino? What is his income? Does he live in a large city, in a small city, on a farm, in a house, an apartment, a hotel, a trailer? Just how much education has our prospect? What is his vocabulary in general, in terms of the service our wares render? Just how important does he consider the service rendered by our wares? Serious, matter-of-fact, indifferent, trivial, or funny? Which of our prospect's 4 instincts and 5 senses are involved when he thinks about or uses our wares? What does our prospect know about our wares? What does he like about them? What does he dislike about them? When does he buy it? This question has to do primarily with seasons. Are our wares bought only in summer, only in winter, all year round, only on a certain day of the week, only at a certain time of day, only on special occasions such as graduations, weddings in case of illness, for vacation? Where does he buy it? Does he go to a certain kind of dealer to make the purchase? Does he telephone or write a letter to have the goods delivered to him? Does an agent or canvasser come to his door? How does he buy it? There are three subdivisions to this question. 1. Does he buy it by the inch, pound, quart, ounce, dozen, unit, carat, or ton? 2. Does he buy for cash or on some time payment plan? If the latter, does this mean that our copy will have to tell our prospect not only what kind of agent or dealer to get in touch with, but also what kind of financial institution? 3. Is the purchase premeditated or one of convenience? A drink of Coca-Cola, today's groceries, gasoline for the car. Such purchases are normally purchases of convenience or impulse and require no elaborate planning. On the other hand, for a new fur coat, an automobile, a piano, or a new home, premeditation and prayer usually precede the placing of the order. Why does he buy it? This is the most misleading question of all, because we have the paradox that what you sell is almost never what your prospect buys. The advertiser will tell you the outstanding features of his product or service. He will tell you why he built it that way. From an engineering viewpoint, or a design viewpoint, or a utility viewpoint, he will demonstrate the advantages of his product or service. And he will be right in everything he says. Unfortunately, what the advertiser tells you provides only a small fraction of the working equipment you need. People don't buy soap, they buy cleanliness. People don't buy toothpaste, they buy beauty and freedom from toothache. People don't buy automobiles, they buy transportation, social prestige, the great outdoors, life, liberty, and the pursuit of the opposite sex. People don't buy houses, they buy homes. People don't buy reducing bath salts, they buy loss of weight. People don't buy insurance policies, they buy the fulfillment of plans or the protection of their families. We can always cite the diamond as coming pretty close to being a purchase in itself. Some people buy diamonds largely as investments, because the diamond retains its inherent values in quality and weight. But most diamonds are still bought for reasons of sentiment and of social prestige, far more than for their intrinsic value. All of which means that your fact-finding must clearly determine the degree to which your prospect will buy your article as something in itself, as against something your article will do for him. Out of the determination of that fact, you will be guided as to how far you want to talk about your article as merchandise, as against what your prospect is missing by not having the article, as against what your prospect will gain by possessing the article. Let us repeat. What you sell is rarely what your prospect buys. What is the competition? Here again, there is constant danger of getting only part of the answer. The manufacturer of soaps or dentifrices can tell you which other soaps or dentifrices represent his stiffest competition. He can tell you how his product compares with each competitive product, but it is also possible to scrub your body with salt, to brush your teeth with salt or soda bicarb. And some people do. And anything which achieves the same end is competition. The automobile manufacturer can tell you how his car compares with competitive cars. But buses and trolleys and trains and planes are also transportation. A finer home also enhances social prestige. The movie theater is also a good place to hold hands. A manufacturer of houses may overlook the fact that hotels and apartment houses are still in business, and that some people think they prefer to pay rent and avoid the responsibilities of home ownership. The maker of reducing bath salts can give you the soundest chemical reasons for the effectiveness of his product. But he may forget that Turkish baths and gardening and dieting are among his competitors. Every method of saving is to some extent competing with insurance. Many a diamond is not bought because of a new fur coat or a trip to California, all of which is by way of saying that the full answer to what is the competition is anything and everything that will render the same service by any means whatever. Copywriters spend as much as half their time writing copy. What the copywriter does with the rest of his time depends upon what kind of copywriter he is. Some sit at their desks, waiting for inspiration. Some of these inspirationalists, not all, are afflicted with a disease called KIA. This is an abbreviation for know-it-all. This kind of copywriter assumes that most people think as he does, feel as he does, and that people who don't think and feel as he does need merely to be told how they ought to think and feel. The other kind of copywriter is quite apt to be away from his desk a great deal of the time when he is not writing copy. He is quite apt to assume, with each new job, that he knows nothing whatever about the problem. So he does the hat trick, puts on his hat, and goes looking for information. You want facts about the product and facts about the people who are prospects for the product. The designer of the product will tell you why he designed it that way. The star salesman of the product can tell you what arguments he uses to sell it. It will pay you to interview the star salesman at regular intervals. You will frequently discover that he has unearthed new sales arguments, which work better than the old ones. He is on the firing line trying to make sales every day. He learns by trial and error which sales arguments work. Your endeavor to secure facts about the product should include interviews with those who are using the product, those who use competitive products, and, if such there be, those who use neither your product nor the competitor's products. How do such people manage to survive? Do they have a method of doing the same job? A method you had not previously thought of as competition for your product? When it comes to getting facts about those who are prospects for the product, it is important to remember that what you need, as the target for your writing, is an accurate picture of an average or composite prospect. Most of the time, this means that you need both statistical information and information fresh from the field. Most trades and industries have associations. Most professions have societies. These associations and societies are storehouses of useful statistical information. They are run by people whose duty and pleasure it is to give out information about their particular trade or industry or profession. You are not imposing when you go to these people for information. There are general libraries and there are libraries specializing in particular subjects: science, art, industry, etc. Once again, the information is there if you will reach for it. The moral is, in your spare time, build a list of all the associations and societies and general libraries and specialized libraries, know where they are, get the names of the secretaries and librarians who can help you. Beyond this, you might do well to build up a list of trade and industrial and professional contacts. A wholesale druggist, grocer, hardware house, a retailer in each line, an architect, a chemist, a physician, etc. Make friends with such people. Do them a service so that you will feel free to call upon them in turn for help. Any wholesale druggist can tell you the currently most popular flavor for a laxative in his territory. You do not need to ask 1,000 people in order to learn that kind of fact. When it comes to field research, the copywriter should do at least enough of the job to have the feel of the audience. If you interview 10 people, you know a great deal more than if you had interviewed none. If you interview 50, you know more than if you had interviewed 10. Don't base your judgments on a limited sample. The opinions of your spouse, sweetheart, or fond relatives are totally unimportant. If 2,000 people are to be interviewed, the copywriter who is to use the facts thus produced will do well to do at least 50 of the interviews personally. We spoke about the kind of copywriter who assumes he knows nothing whenever a new problem is presented to him. In essence, this means that he is ready to challenge everything he does know, to start at scratch, to collect the facts and figures he is going to need for the new job at hand. This is far safer than to assume that some fact or some strategy that was useful in an apparently similar situation will automatically work the same way in this new situation. Some new factor may have developed that will work against a similar success this time. Old Aesop Glim begs you to challenge everything, and challenge often. Too many of our sacred cows still blindly worshipped were born 30, 40, 50, or more years ago. If we look at them with our eyes open, we may discover that they have changed greatly, or even that they are no longer sacred. The basic characteristics and the living habits of the American people have undergone radical changes in the last 50 years. Our average age is higher. We live longer. Families are smaller. Homes are smaller. Apartments are more numerous. Storage space is smaller. So what? With smaller storage space, for instance, more frequent purchases all the year round. The war produced some radical changes. Bureau of Census figures showed that between 1940 and 1944, the percentage of married women moved up from 59.5 to 62.8%. and the number of unmarried men in civilian life went down to 1,700,000. There were a great many communities without a doctor, and so forth and so on. It just isn't safe to assume that you know much of anything. By way of an assignment, select a product or service on which you would like to make a study, and on which you would later like to write some copy. Start now to assemble all the facts you can get, so that your subject will have been picked and your facts gathered before you tackle the first copy policy assignment. It is suggested that you select a product or service which already has a good number of satisfied customers, but which also deserves to have a great many more customers. Don't choose for your subject a popular drink or a cigarette or a staple such as bread or salt. You will have an assignment on this kind of copy problem later on. Set up your facts under headings corresponding to the 6 basic questions discussed in the preceding section. See sections back we discussed, under 6 broad headings, the kinds of facts we must secure before we can start our copy policy. Who buys or should buy it? When does he buy it? Where does he buy it? How does he buy it? Why does he buy it? What is the competition? When we have these questions answered in all pertinent detail, we recognize that all our information can now be boiled down to just 2 kinds of facts. First, what the product offers. Second, what the prospect wants. Let us assume arbitrarily that 5 facts about the product are outstanding, worthy of consideration for a place in our copy policy. Solely from the point of view of what the product offers, the point of view of the designer and the manufacturer, 5 features are particularly worthy of note. 5 features stand out as either performance features or manufacturing achievements. But we are not yet ready to say that these 5 features automatically belong in the copy policy. Now, let us also assume that there are 5 features our prospect is seeking from the product. Take a sheet of paper and list on one side the 5 facts about the product, and on the other side the 5 facts about the prospect. How far can we mate the 2 sets of facts? Let us assume, theoretically, that the product offers 3 features the prospect wants, and 2 features the prospect does not know he wants, and that the product fails to offer 2 features which the prospect thinks he wants. What do we know now? First, that there are 3 features offered by the product which are wanted by the prospect. Obviously, we will talk about these 3 features. Second, that there are 2 things the prospect wants which the product does not offer. Obviously, we will not make any false pretense that the product offers what it does not offer, no matter how badly the prospect wants these 2 features. Of course, our fact-finding sometimes produces information that leads a manufacturer to improve his wares. Third, we find that our product offers 2 features in which our prospect is not interested. The chances are we will not talk much about these 2 features. We will assume that they are very good features and that the manufacturer was not indulging in unbridled imagination when he added them to his product. We won't minimize the desirability of these 2 features, but we must recognize that there are 3 features the prospect knows he wants, and we know that our product offers those 3 features. Why try to force into greater prominence any but the 3 features the product does offer which the prospect does want? In order to be a shade more specific, let us assume that we are talking about a radio set and that our fact-finding indicates that the 5 features that our prospect wants are tone, selectivity, a good-looking cabinet, FM, and television. Let us assume that our product offers tone, selectivity, a good-looking cabinet, not FM, not television, plus 2 features the prospect has never thought or heard of. We would certainly be short-sighted to pretend that our radio set offers FM or television. The sets would be coming back to the stores as rapidly as the sales were made. Our copy must talk about tone, selectivity, and a good-looking cabinet, on which our product will make good. Maybe, and maybe not, we will also talk about a built-in alarm clock and a secret jewel compartment. But if we do talk about these last 2 features, they must be in the nature of added features, a postscript. They are distinctly not features that are in the prospect's mind. If they have any value, they are in the realm of extra dividends on top of tone and selectivity and a good-looking cabinet. Today, it is almost impossible to think of a young lady who is not interested in nail polishes, and new shades of nail polish, and improvements in nail polishes. And the copy on nail polishes today clearly reflects these interests. However, when Q-Tex was first put on the market, The one most effective headline was, "Don't cut the cuticle." For a long time, this headline outpulled all headlines having to do with lovely hands, or dainty fingertips, or shades of polish. It tied directly into an existing interest. It was a nuisance to cut the cuticle. It was all but heresy not to cut the cuticle. Nothing else Q-Tex had to offer compared in interest with the idea of not cutting the cuticle. Had the original Q-Tex copy overplayed the other features that the manufacturer had built into his product, the sales curve would have had a much slower rise. That slogan represented the mating of something the product had to offer with something in which the prospect was already interested. Once upon a time, and for a period of several years, the most successful Pepsodent headlines were all built around pretty teeth. Not white teeth, nor pearly teeth, nor healthy teeth, but pretty teeth. At that moment in the world's history, the average prospect wanted pretty teeth. And the copywriter who tried to ignore that fact would have been committing business suicide. Mate what the product offers with what the prospect wants. Wherever they do, mate naturally and truthfully. Don't promise things the prospect wants that the product does not offer. Ignore or play down the features that the product offers and that the prospect does not know he wants. By way of an assignment, take the facts you assembled under the previous assignment. Rearrange them into two lists headed "What the product offers" and "What the prospect wants." Now mate the two sets of facts, as discussed in this section. Save these lists for a further assignment. For most products, we can figure that we have two kinds of prospects: those who know something about the product or service we are advertising and who know they are prospects for our wares, and those who know practically nothing about the product or service we are advertising and who don't know that they are prospects for our wares. Let us distinguish these two kinds of prospects as fans and unsophisticates. The Spanish word for fan is aficionado, which might be translated as one who has an affection for the subject. By unsophisticates, let us understand innocence, which means lack of knowledge. It would be very convenient if we could divide our advertisement in half and somehow manage to say on one side, "If you are a fan, read this side." And on the other side, "If you are an unsophisticate, read this side." Unfortunately, it is our job to write one advertisement, which will catch both those who are pretty well sold and those who don't even realize that they are prospects. Old Aesop Glim begs you to accept this basic rule. When you write copy, ignore the fans and write to the unsophisticates. The thing which makes a fan is that he is already interested. Being interested, he will read almost anything written on the subject in which he is interested. Assuming that your copy is well written, he will read it, none of which is true of the unsophisticate. His unsophisticatedness, his innocence, is based on the fact that he doesn't know he ought to be interested. The unsophisticate is the object of your attack. If your advertisement can reach out from the page and seize the lapel of the unsophisticate who is a prospect for your wares, arrest his attention, make him read your whole advertisement. If your advertisement can get itself seen, read, and believed by the unsophisticates, you have an advertisement. You have an advertisement that will make customers out of people who do not even know they are prospects. You have an advertisement that will also make faithful users out of the fans who already either knew or suspected that they were prospects. If you want to check this theory of fans versus unsophisticates, think of the subjects which are your own hobbies, the subjects on which you are a fan. Is there anything well written which you won't read on these subjects? Old Aesop Glim is a tropical fish fan. The angelfish is a long-established breed. Yet it is hard to imagine anything having to do with the tail and fin formation of the angelfish, the intensification of color, or the breeding habits of this fish which he would not read, in spite of the fact that he hopes he has read everything of importance which has thus far been written on the subject. Are you a baseball fan? Have you a favorite pitcher or first baseman? Have you a favorite movie or radio or stage star? Is there anything any writer can say, whether praising or condemning your hero, that you won't read? All this is leading up to the fact that if you are going to build an advertisement which will get itself seen and read by the unsophisticates, your copy must first go out and establish a common meeting ground with the unsophisticates. If they don't know that they are interested in tropical fish or baseball, you can hardly hope to catch their attention by starting in the middle of your subject. The starting point for your copy, the subject matter for your headline, must be found over in the realm of something they already know, from which you can logically lead them to the basic subject of your copy. This is called leading the prospect from the known to the unknown. The unknown is the virtue of your wares. If your prospect knew this virtue, your only advertising problem would be one of constant reminder. Since this is not true, your job is obviously one of education. By going halfway to meet your prospect, by establishing a common meeting ground, you win his confidence through your agreement on things in which he already believes. You get him agreeing with you on things he already believes. He is then predisposed to agree with you, if plausible, on the things he didn't know before. If you accept the basic tenet of addressing your message to the unsophisticates and ignoring the fans, then you will probably never put the name of your product or your company into the headline, the subhead, or the opening paragraph. Before you can safely mention your product or company by name, you must be confident that you have laid the ground, as lawyers say, to be sure of its acceptance as interesting and pertinent. You cannot assume that your product or company, their names, are interesting in and of themselves. They are of interest to the unsophisticates solely in terms of the significance, the importance you give them, and until you have given them this interest and importance, the product name and/or company name have none. If you mention them too soon, you prevent a reading of the balance of the advertisement. You have merely shouted, "This is an advertisement about Schultz's widgets." By way of an assignment, review your work under the two preceding assignments. See whether you now want to change your emphasis on any of the facts in terms of the greater importance of the unsophisticates. We have devoted considerable time to the idea that the copywriter's job is first, to get facts, second, to write a copy policy, third, to write the copy. Your copy policy is both a selection of the most pertinent facts and the skeleton for each and every piece of copy in a given campaign. You need one copy policy for each audience to which you are going to advertise your product or service. The chances are that for most products or services, the facts you would use or the dress you would give them would be a little different if you were advertising to farmers rather than to city dwellers, for example. In addition, your copy policy constitutes the plan which you sell to your client or your boss before you write the copy. Many a successful author sells his articles or stories before he writes them. This is not primarily a matter of the writer's reputation. It is due to the fact that he is able to give the editor in advance a concise, understandable diagram of the article or story he wants to write. Similarly, your copy policy can be the means of pre-selling your copy. What this means is that you and your client or boss get into complete agreement in advance as to the copy's objective, its subject matter, its dress, and its sequence. Time and again, this means that when the copy is finally presented for approval, that approval rests solely on checking to see whether the copy has lived up to the copy policy. A great deal of quibbling over verbiage and punctuation is thereby avoided. We now come to the subject of sequence, which is probably the one most important part of our job. A factual story with logical sequence will get itself a reading, even if not written by a master copywriter. Conversely, the smoothest writing will not hold the attention of the reader when there are not enough facts and when the sequence construction is faulty. In line with our discussion of fans and unsophisticates, let us consider the sequence and construction for an advertising message addressed to people who do not know that they are prospects for the product or service we are advertising. We agreed that in such a case it is our job to establish a common meeting ground with these prospects, somewhere over in the realm of what they already know or what they will accept without resistance, and then lead them from that point to the point where they know as much as we do about the virtues of our wares. Let us indulge in a bit of allegory. Let us assume that we are standing on the bank of a river. The river represents the circulation of the publication in which we are going to publish our advertisement. The readers of this publication are going up and down the stream in small boats. Out of all these readers, only a certain number are prospects for our wares. It is our job to erect an attractive landing place on the bank of the river, at which those who are our prospects will be tempted to stop and land. With our usual mixture of metaphors, let us assume that we are going to erect on the bank of this river a wharf, and then decorate the wharf with the kind of signs which are usually found outside a circus sideshow. All of this, of course, is the arresting power of our advertisement, which we have discussed at intervals throughout this volume. The ability of the headline, the layout, and the main illustration to catch the attention of those who are our prospects. Our copy policy might open with a general paragraph containing a concise description of our composite or average prospect, to whom our copy will be written, plus a description of the publications in which our advertisements will appear. This general paragraph could be followed by step 1, which would be a statement of the kind of material we would use to establish our common meeting ground with our prospect. In other words, the first plank of our copy policy is a definition of the bait we will use for our arresting power. Let us be sure that we fully understand the problem which faces us. We can visualize our problem thus. The two rules represent the banks of the river. The river is the circulation of the publication in which our advertisement is to appear. Some of these readers are prospects for our wares. At some distance from the bank of the river is the point of sale. This is the point at which our prospects know as much as we do about the virtues of our wares. When those who are our prospects know the virtues of our wares, our job will be finished. We shall have arrested their attention, induced them to land at our wharf, and led them to the point of sale. The question that is often the most difficult to answer is, how far is the point of sale from the bank of the river? A great deal of confusion may arise if you overlook two facts. First, the distance is determined by the prospect's ignorance. Second, this ignorance is something to be measured by fact-finding. In other words, as a copywriter, you have nothing to do with deciding or setting this distance. The distance is a fact. It is a fact over which you have no control. It is a fact you must know. When you know this fact, when you know how great is your prospect's ignorance, when you know the distance between the bank of the river and the point of sale, then you are ready to begin to function as a copywriter. As a copywriter, it is then your job to construct the story which will catch the attention of your prospect, and hold that attention while you lead him from the bank of the river to the point of sale. Your story will be so smoothly constructed that your prospect will have no consciousness of being led. But, step by step, your story will destroy his ignorance. Let us consider cases which illustrate how greatly the ignorance distance can vary. Assume that our prospects are gum chewers, and that we have a new pineapple-flavored chewing gum. Obviously, we don't have to stop and explain what chewing gum is. Our steps are few and easy. Here's pineapple chewing gum. It's made by Wrigley. You can buy it wherever candies or tobacco are sold. Or we have a new kind of milk which does not sour. Our prospects know what milk is. They know the inconvenience and waste of having it get sour. Once again, our steps are few and easy. Here is milk which does not sour. It's Borden's. Order it from your milkman, grocer, or delicatessen. In both these cases, the prospect's ignorance as to the virtues of our wares was destroyed by giving him relatively little information. But, for contrast, assume we are to write copy about a new kind of brake lining. Our prospects are all those people who own or drive cars and trucks. Assume that all brake linings look very much alike. Ours has some differences, but the differences are not visible. Assume that most owners have never seen or handled a piece of brake lining, and that many of them don't even know they need brake lining on their vehicles. Obviously, we can't excite them with a picture of our brake lining. As a matter of fact, we can't even start with the subject of brake lining, if we hope to give our advertisement real arresting power for all those who are our prospects. In this case, our fact-finding shows that the point of sale is quite a distance from the bank of the river. We have a real construction problem on our hands. We now have the problem of writing a copy policy for a new brand of brake lining. Our fact-finding tells us that all owners and drivers of cars and trucks are prospects for our message. But it also tells us that few of our prospects have ever seen or handled a piece of brake lining, and that many of them don't even know they have brake lining on their vehicles. Moreover, all brake linings look pretty much alike and quite uninteresting. Under these conditions, we can't hope to catch the attention of all our prospects with a picture of our brake lining. We won't even start our copy with the subject of brake linings. We must start further back in both illustration and story. We must first establish a common meeting ground with our prospects, from which we can lead them into the subject of brake linings and then into the real, but invisible advantages of our brake lining. Remembering that this is not copy, but only the skeleton for the copy, here's how our copy policy might read. Product, lion paw brake lining. Prospects, all owners and drivers of cars and trucks. Mediums, general magazines reaching both men and women. Step 1. Arresting power. Stop all those who are prospects. We shall use headlines which indicate that motor accidents are not always due to recklessness or speeding, and not always the driver's fault, such as 2 out of 3 motor accidents occur under 15 miles per hour. B. 90% of motor accidents due to careless pedestrian. Step 2. Substantiation. Justify, prove the headline. A. Records kept by police chiefs of our 15 largest cities show that most accidents occur when cars are moving at less than 15 miles per hour. B. Records kept by the Secretary of the State of New York on 10,000 consecutive accidents showed that 9 out of 10 times the pedestrian was at fault. Step 3. Transition. Get into your subject. A. Obviously, this is not the result of speeding, not what we think of as recklessness, but it emphasizes the need of having your car or truck under perfect control at all times. You must be able to stop quickly. Your brakes must be in perfect condition. No brakes can be in perfect condition if the brake lining is faulty. B. But we all know that regardless of where the fault lies, it is the motorist who is most frequently blamed and penalized. This emphasizes the great importance of having your car or truck under perfect control, etc. Step 4. Competition. Frequently omitted, inferior brake lining wears down unevenly, is affected by oil, moisture, heat, may grab or slip unexpectedly. Step 5. Your product. Do it justice. Everything up to this point has been a build-up for this opportunity to make the prospect learn the virtues of your wares. Lion paw brake lining offers you certain exclusive advantages. It is osmotized to resist oil, moisture, and heat. It is hydraulic compressed with 40% more braking material in every square inch, which means that it wears down slowly and evenly, maintaining its gripping power until worn wafer thin. Lion paw brake lining will not fail you in an emergency. Step 6. Business ending. Tell your prospect what to do about it. Don't ever give your prospect the chance to say, "So what?" Tell him what you want him to do. Think of your business ending as the RSVP of a letter. Tell your reader a reply is expected. If you've told your story well up to this point, you now have your prospect ready to buy or to ask for more information. Tell him how to buy, where to buy, how and where to get more information. Such as, write for our booklet, mail in the coupon below, go to a specified kind of dealer, ask for a specified sample or test or checkup or demonstration. And if it is time to have your brakes relined, be sure to specify lion paw brake lining. We started with a visualization of our problem. We agreed that the distance of the point of sale from the bank of the river was determined for us by a fact: the ignorance of our prospects. Our problem is how to stop all our prospects and lead them against their natural impulses to the point of sale, the point at which they will know as much as we do about the virtues of our wares. Our copy policy indicates the construction for our copy, shows how we can build a bridge from the bank of the river to the point of sale. The bridge can be thought of as a triangle, with the sides slowly narrowing in on our prospects. The construction of our story narrows the attention of our prospects down to a concentrated interest in our wares. We can visualize the steps of our triangle. This triangle indicates only the sequence of our story. It does not indicate the relative length and importance of the successive steps. The most important steps are always the last two, the virtues of the wares and the business ending. All else is a build-up for these two. All else should be as brief as our prospect's ignorance permits. The beginning of the story should be as near the ending of the story as our prospect's ignorance permits. Our fact-finding may frequently indicate that steps 2, 3, and 4 can be omitted, such as, arresting power, here's milk which does not sour. Your product, it's Borden's. Business ending, order from your milkman, grocer, or delicatessen. Arresting power, nylons, $1. Your product at Macy's, today only. Business ending, first floor, no mail or telephone orders. Sorry. But when our prospects don't even know they are prospects, then steps 1, 2, and 3 become particularly important, demand careful study and accurate construction. The most frequent mistakes in copy construction occur when the distance between the bank of the river and the point of sale has been misgauged. Always remember, your triangular bridge must be just as long as the ignorance distance of your prospect. Always remember, this ignorance is a fact over which you as a copywriter have no control, a fact to be measured solely by fact-finding. If your bridge is too short, you won't lead your prospect to the point of sale. If your bridge is too long, if steps 1, 2, and 3 are unnecessarily elaborate, you will overshoot the point of sale. Overshooting misses the mark too. At the risk of boring you, we shall now review and enlarge upon some of the fundamentals of the copy policy. We have agreed that the proper procedure is 1. Get the facts. 2. Write the copy policy. 3. Write the copy. Broadly speaking, we need two kinds of facts. First, facts about the product, what it offers to those who are prospects. Second, facts about the prospects, what kind of people they are, what they want from our product. Having secured all pertinent facts of these two kinds, our job is then to decide the relative importance of the various facts about the product and the relative importance of the various facts about the prospect. Whereupon we endeavor to mate or reconcile these two sets of facts. Wherever the product offers what the prospect wants, we have a natural and truthful mating of facts. We do not promise things the prospect wants if the product does not offer them. We either ignore or play down into secondary position any features the product offers which the prospect does not know he wants. Recognizing the fact that for most products we have one audience, fans, already somewhat interested in our wares, and a second audience, unsophisticates, who do not even know that they are prospects for our wares. Recognizing the fact that a fan will read almost anything on the subject in which he is interested, we construct our copy to catch the interest and make converts of those who do not know they are prospects. By and large, we ignore the fans in planning the construction of our copy policy. On the basis that an unsophisticate does not know he is a prospect, the first step in our construction is to establish a common meeting ground, to arrest his attention with something in which he is already interested. This is done with the idea that we will lead him step by step from the subject in which he knows he is interested to the subject in which he does not know he is interested. Step 1 of our copy policy is a description of the material to be used, in headline and main illustration, to arrest the attention of those who are prospects. Step 2 is the substantiation or justification of our headline, if it needs substantiation. Obviously, many headlines which would be arresting statements would not automatically be believed solely on their bare statement. Step 3 is the transition, leading our prospect from the subject with which we arrested his attention to the subject on which we wish to focus his attention. This, of course, presupposes the fact that it was necessary to go somewhat afield to capture his attention. In short, we speak of the transition as getting into our subject. Step 4 is the point at which we imply that similar competitive products may be lacking in some of the virtues they should possess. This step is frequently omitted and, by way of a broad dictum, old Aesop Glim says ignore your competition. If your product possesses the virtues you claim and is rightly priced, and if your copy is soundly constructed, you will get your share of the market. Step 5 is your product, and the injunction is do it justice. Everything up to this point has been a build-up for the opportunity to talk directly, openly, and with all possible persuasion about the virtues of your wares. Step 6 is the business ending, or the RSVP, and the injunction is tell your prospects what you want them to do about the virtues of your wares. Be specific as to what you want them to do. Be specific as to the kind of dealer you want them to call on, if any. As already indicated, step 4 is frequently omitted. Your fact-finding and your mating of the facts will indicate whether steps 2 and 3 are needed. Don't omit a step which is needed. Don't include anything which is unnecessary. Soundly constructed copy has no unnecessary padding. Every idea, every fact is put in with a specific purpose. Your copy policy indicates the selection of facts you are going to use and the sequence in which you are going to present them. The sequence is as important as any other single part of the job. You will be safe in assuming that the sequence indicated above must not be violated. Step 3 must not get ahead of Step 2. Step 5 must not get ahead of Step 4. Step 6 must always be last. When writing a copy policy, it is good practice to indicate why Step 2 or 3 or 4 is omitted, if omitted. By way of an assignment, you're now ready to try your hand at the construction of a complete copy policy. Build this out of the facts you have been assembling, organizing, and revising under the 3 preceding assignments. Be sure that your finished copy policy shows all 6 steps of the triangle. Check your work to make certain that you have observed all the precepts thus far presented in this section of the book. We present here with 2 separate concepts. Both are a little tricky. Each is distinctly important in itself. The 2 are somewhat interrelated, please pay attention. 2 of the greatest speakers of recent times have been President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Churchill. From time to time, they have made fairly long speeches. To all practical purposes, there was no padding. There were no unnecessary words in anything they said. Now, let us assume that you listened with utmost care to one of these speeches. Perhaps you even made notes. Then, making every attempt to do the speech full justice, you undertook to tell someone else what was said. For every 100 words the speaker used, you used 10 to 15. Granting that there were no unnecessary words in the speech, and that you were not consciously trying to make a digest of the speech, the simple fact remains that what the speaker said and what you retained took 2 very different quantities of words. Yet it was actually necessary for the speaker to use that many words to be certain that you would retain the number of words in which he relayed his message. All of which has a great deal to do with the writing of advertising. What we write and what the reader retains are similarly 2 separate and different quantities. In our copy, it is necessary for us to use a good many words in order to be certain that the reader will retain a few. The safest approach to copy construction is to write backward. Start with the telegraphically brief message you want and expect your reader to retain. Build your construction backward from that kernel. A good many pages of this book have been devoted to the question of what goes into the copy policy and how to construct the copy policy. The most general criticism of copy policies written by beginners is that they are too lengthy for copy policies. Many of them are almost wordy enough to be the full copy message. Perhaps you can learn how to write more telegraphic copy policies if you will accept the concept of working backward from what you want the reader to retain. Theoretically, you would like to have the reader accept a number of ideas, step by step in sequence. Work on this basis. What the reader will probably retain, no matter how long your final copy, is some part of one sentence of your lead and the gist of your closing paragraph or paragraphs. This must not be taken as a suggestion that copy should always be short. As a matter of fact, the basic implication is that it usually takes reasonably long copy to make what the reader retains worth the cost of running the advertisement. If we can summarize all this into a single precept, we might say, start with the telegraphic message that you want your prospect to retain. Be sure you know what that message is before you start writing the copy. Then make certain that the sequence of your story and the length of your story are both adequate to ensure the delivery of that final, retained message. Our second concept for today's session provides one method for checking yourself on the foregoing precept, but it also has value of and by itself. In a previous chapter, we said that the only formula for writing accurately is to make certain that you are writing directly to the person you want to reach. Get yourself into the frame of mind to believe that the people to whom you are writing your copy are sitting in the room with you. On one side of the desk, you and all you know about the wares you have to sell. On the other side, your audience of people who are prospects for those wares. Write directly to your prospects. With each sentence you write, stop and ask yourself what effect that sentence will have upon your audience. Keep out of your mind all thoughts of whether your boss or your fond relatives will like it. Now, having finished your stint, get up and leave the room. Go out and get a drink of water. Go and have a visit with somebody. Try to forget what you have written. When you finally return, sit down on your audience's side of the desk, pick up the copy, and read it thoughtfully, as though you had never seen it before. Try to determine what a person who had never seen it before, a person who is not familiar with all the preliminary fact-finding and planning, would get out of what you have actually written. Whenever you see a piece of writing that doesn't quite seem to come off, even though you can probably spot the germ of a good idea in it, You may be pretty certain that the writer failed to get onto the paper what he had in his mind. Obviously, if you don't get it out of your mind and onto the paper, your future reader has very little chance of taking it off the paper. You won't be there to say, what this really means is, by way of an assignment, try your hand at a wholly new copy policy for a product or service you know something about. Don't invent any facts. Don't write about an imaginary product or service. Strive to make this new copy policy more telegraphic than your preceding one, but be sure you follow all the precepts in this chapter of the book. The frame must be complete. The meat on the frame can be as telegraphic as makes sense. In a gambling den, so I've been told, a certain fixed percentage of each game's winnings goes to the house. This is sometimes called the house's split. The winner, of course, gets the lion's share, but the house always gets something too. Thus, the house is able to stay in business. When a manufacturer has 2 or more products to advertise, it is very much in order to do some thinking about the house's split. The matter becomes doubly important when the manufacturer's products are advertised to several different audiences, or when different kinds of publications are used. Let us assume that our manufacturer has 5 advertised products, and that each product is adequately advertised to each of its audiences. We can think of our manufacturer as the hub of a wheel, with his product advertising campaigns radiating like the spokes. If there are 20 advertisements on product A, 18 advertisements on product B, 24 on C, 10 on D, and 17 on E, 89 advertisements have been sent out by our manufacturer. The question before us is, what did the house get out of all this? How far did the advertising of each individual product help the house itself? The opportunity exists, in a situation such as this, for some important plus values in public relations, at no extra cost to the advertiser. That being the case, it's too bad not to seize the opportunity. It is possible for each and every one of the 89 advertisements to pay a dividend beneficial to the house and to all the products of the house. First, let's agree that whatever we do, we must not decrease the efficiency of the advertising of product A to audience A. While we're building our copy theme and advertising strategy on product A to audience A, we must pretend that we have only the one product and the one audience. Ditto as we tackle the copy theme and advertising strategy for each and every other product and audience. On this theory, we will rarely expect to advertise 2 products simultaneously. Even though Mrs. Jones is a prospect for both our toilet soap and our laundry soap, it is safer to assume that she's in one frame of mind when weighing the merits of a toilet soap, and in quite a different frame of mind when worrying about her laundry problems. When we're selling our toilet soap, we must sell our toilet soap hard. When we're selling our laundry soap, we must sell our laundry soap hard. So we repeat, while we're building our copy theme and advertising strategy on product A to audience A, we must pretend that we have only the one product and the one audience. We must be certain that whatever we do to inject the house's split does not in any way lessen the efficiency and the accuracy of our advertising of each individual product to each audience. Let us tackle the problem of injecting the house's split on a straight percentage basis. Let us agree that the house is to get a 20% dividend out of every one of the 89 different advertisements on the 5 different products. We arbitrarily divide each space unit into 80% and 20%. The top 80% is going to be an advertisement for one product, doing full justice to the copy theme and advertising strategy we have set up for that product to a particular audience. In essence, our advertisements for product A to audience A are 20% smaller, but otherwise in no way altered by our endeavor to do something for the whole house and the other products. That job is restricted to the bottom 20% of each advertisement. Here we learn that product A is made by the Smith Company, who are makers of toilet soaps, laundry soaps, soap flakes, soap powders, detergents. That is the house's split. Sticking to our mathematics, product A still has 20 advertisements, product B 18 advertisements, product C 24, product D 10, and product E 17. But suddenly the house, as a house, has received 89 small display advertisements. This is a clear dividend for the house, at no net increase in overall cost. To establish the house's split, 20% would, of course, be the maximum taken out of each advertisement. it might frequently be a far smaller percentage. What is the effect of our new 80% toilet soap advertisement on Mrs. Jones? If it is not a good story, the effect will still be virtually zero. But if it is a good story, and if she then discovers that this new toilet soap, which has caught her interest, is made by a firm which also makes almost every other kind of cleanser, then the toilet soap has gained an added desirability. Now, our toilet soap not only sounds like a good product, but it is obviously made by a large and responsible firm who certainly ought to know how to build cleansing properties into a toilet soap. A further dividend is that Mrs. Jones may already be a user of our laundry soap. When she discovers that this toilet soap is made by the people who also make her favorite laundry soap, her temptation to buy the toilet soap is all the greater. Whenever you have 20 advertisements on a single product, or 89 advertisements for a family of products, there is always a danger of minimizing the importance of a single advertisement. The greater the number of advertisements, the more you must be on guard to make certain that each and every advertisement is built to stand squarely on its own feet. Old Aesop Glim has never found a better simile for this situation than that of an army. An army is a collection of individual soldiers. It gains in strength because there are many soldiers, but its dependability rests entirely upon how well and how completely each individual soldier is equipped. If all are supposed to carry rifles, you can't be careless and issue only 3 rifles to every 5 soldiers, and then expect your army to fight with full efficiency. Each and every advertisement you prepare, no matter how large the total campaign, must be fully equipped to go out and represent you, as though it were the first and last advertisement to appear on that subject. Whether the advertisement carries educational copy or merely reminder copy, be sure that it is fully adequate to its job. In every campaign, whether for a single product or for a multiplicity of products, there is a further dividend to be had, and once again, at no extra cost. Be sure that all your advertisements have family resemblance. Be sure that each advertisement carries the badge which identifies it as a member of the family. This badge may be the company's trademark, or the company logo type, or some purely ornamental device, or some standardization of typography, etc. Family resemblance, in advertising campaigns, is the difference between scattering bricks indiscriminately over a large area and piling them up into a tower. Thousands of scattered bricks can still have very little visibility, whereas a relatively small number, properly laid, soon become highly visible. By way of an assignment, build 3 complete advertisements based on your first copy policy. Remember that your copy policy is the skeleton or blueprint for all 3 pieces of copy. In other words, all 3 pieces have exactly the same construction and sequence. They vary primarily in the opening steps, solely in order that each advertisement shall be fresh and newsy. Be sure that each advertisement is equipped to stand squarely on its own feet. Be sure that all 3 have family resemblance. Institutional copy is a label which sometimes covers a multitude of sins, and sometimes a number of virtues. Broadly speaking, institutional copy deals with the company back of the product. Instead of talking about the product made by the company or the service rendered by the company, institutional copy talks about the company's labor relations, production facilities, stockholder relations, government relations, etc. The purpose of such advertising is to educate the public at large, or some segment of the public, on some phase of the company's operations or policies, with a view to producing better labor relations, better government relations, better stockholder relations, etc. Some of the time, institutional copy also has its eye on a possible indirect effect on the sale of the company's product or services. Institutional advertising on labor relations is probably most often aimed at securing or maintaining a steady stream of workers, with which to produce the company's goods. Institutional advertising on government relations may range from the publicizing of an Army-Navy E award, probably signifying full rapport with the government, to the all-out difference of opinion between company and government, typified by the Montgomery Ward War Labor Board advertising. Institutional advertising on stockholder relations may be aimed at achieving wider geographical distribution of the stock. If, for instance, too large an amount of stock is held in New England, it might suddenly be dumped upon the market, if New England had a business setback of some kind. On the other hand, Institutional copy aimed at stockholder relationships may also be directed toward making stockholders greater users or greater boosters of the company's products. Institutional copy having to do with production facilities often has as its objective a fairly direct bearing upon the sale of the company's goods. First, last, and all the time, it should be borne in mind that the company is in business to sell its goods that are worth the price asked for them. Few firms have any legitimate source of profits, other than good goods sold at the right price and in adequate volume. If we recognize this fact, if we never lose sight of this fact, then we will never make the mistake of writing institutional copy when product copy is what is really needed. If your refrigerator fails and spoils a lot of food you were planning to use on Sunday, it is going to be pretty difficult to make you feel kindly toward the manufacturer of that refrigerator. You bought the refrigerator in order to store goods with safety in perfect condition. There is no substitute in gigantic plant facilities. There is no substitute in gleaming white laboratories and the wonders of chemistry which produce the refrigerant. There is no substitute in the fact that all the workmen who made your refrigerator are one great big happy family. If your automobile tire fails, the grace with which sap flows from the rubber tree will be no consolation. If your zipper jams an employee's clubhouse will not get you out of your fix. Old Aesop Glim contends that the buying public is primarily concerned with what they get for their money. This means that, as a copywriter, you can't afford to get far away from that fact. When institutional copy is used as a substitute for product-selling copy, it's the bunk. When institutional copy is recommended because a copywriter is too lazy to write new, hard-selling product copy, it's the bunk. Perhaps the safest gauge as to when to run institutional copy of any type is whether the manufacturer is ready to run this institutional campaign in addition to his product-selling campaign. Institutional copy is never a substitute for something else. The proof of its desirability must always be found in its own justification. These dicta of old Aesop Glim are offered in terms of peacetime conditions. During the recent war years, many firms had no merchandise to offer to the general public. In some cases, a large share of their normal output was diverted to the use of our services. In some cases, firms completely discontinued making their normal products and went into the manufacture of special products for war uses exclusively. Many such firms had large past investments in product advertising. The public has a short memory. These firms did not want to be forgotten. They did not want to come to the end of the war and have to start all over again to create brand consciousness and brand demand for their goods. Many artificial devices were employed to keep brand names alive. But it is very much to be hoped that there will be a general recognition that these were artificial devices, with a temporary objective only. Old Aesop Glim feels very strongly that, regardless of political parties, it has become increasingly important for a firm to prove that it is both economically justified and useful to the public. On both scores, good goods worth the price will be the primary criterion. Sound labor relations, government relations, stockholder relations, efficient equipment, all will play a part in the picture, as time and circumstances indicate. Institutional campaigns on these subjects will be logical and necessary adjuncts to the product advertising. The firm with the greatest chance of survival will be the firm which presents itself to the public as a whole. In other words, it will not present merely certain facets, leaving large areas unknown, subject to idle speculation and false report. To present all facets of a business, to prove that a business is both economically justified and useful to the public, will call for the employment of institutional copy. But if old Aesop Glim may repeat himself for once, institutional copy is never a substitute for product-selling copy. By way of an assignment, build 3 complete advertisements based on your second copy policy. Remember that your copy policy is the skeleton or blueprint for all 3 pieces of copy. In other words, all 3 pieces have exactly the same construction and sequence. They vary, primarily in the opening steps, solely in order that each advertisement shall be fresh and newsy. Be sure that each advertisement is equipped to stand squarely on its own feet. Be sure that all 3 have family resemblance. Thank you for watching until the end. If you want to go deep down into the rabbit hole of marketing and persuasion, click the link in the description where you will find many fundamental books about copywriting, psychology, and persuasion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. See you in the next one.